Updated October 2018 Intro, Part 1a, Part 1b, Part 2, Part 3. The property rights of the unborn child progressed to such a point that in 1938 the Supreme Court of Rhode Island held that a posthumous child was entitled to share in the income of a trust from the date of her father's death rather than from the date of her subsequent birth. In this case, it was the court's opinion that there was no sound reason for treating the posthumous child differently from her brothers and sisters in this matter. Law and the unborn child: the legal and logical inconsistencies. Here. Read here. What are the limits of state intervention in prenatal caretaking? Spiders are helpful and protective, just like my mother. Louise Bourgeois, scene from Enemy. Your mother was like a vine, read Ezekiel 19:10. Also, here. According to Ezekiel 16, a great eagle with great wings, long-winged, full of feathers, which had diverse colors, came unto Lebanon, and took the highest branch of the cedar. He cropped off the top of his young twigs, and carried it into a land of traffic, he set it in a city of merchants. Horton says, a person's a person. Based on the terrifying bestseller by Scott Smith, The Ruins, 2008, follows a group of friends who become entangled in a brutal struggle for survival after visiting a remote archaeological dig in the Mexican jungle. A caving expedition goes horribly wrong, as the explorers become trapped and ultimately pursued by a strange breed of predators, The Descent, 2005. Also, check out The Green Inferno, 2013. One Christian viewpoint of demonic phenomena is that these are fallen angels who come to earth and have offspring with the daughters of men, as is documented in the Holy Bible and elsewhere, such as in the Book of Enoch. Read here. In Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water, 2017, the character Richard Strickland, Michael Shannon, Strickland represents the traditional type of strict Yahweh God of the Jews. He's characterized in the film as the real monster who wants to destroy Elisa's fated love affair with the Beast Man. Review by Roger Ebert. You'll recall Michael Moore's film, Capitalism, A Love Story, 2009, in which he exposes the practice of dead peasant aka janitor insurance. Recall Matt Damon also portrays a brilliant janitor working at a government-subsidized university who finds and discovers a theory relevant to an important mathematical relationship in the film, Good Will Hunting, 1997. Could it have something to do with a mathematical series? Read here. The Midnight Meat Train, 2008, handing off the timetable. Detective Headley, the tenant said a family heirloom is missing, an album. He wants it back. Maya, it's a timetable. With a check for every murder going back 100 years. You cannot give that back. It's the only proof we have. The Midnight Meat Train, 2008, script. The caduceus, carried by Hermes in Greek myths and Mercury in Roman myths, is a symbol that consists of two entwined serpents encircling a wand or rod. It was a symbol of authority and protected the herald who carried it. Hermes was the grandson of Atlas. Maya was the Greek goddess of spring and rebirth. It means the maker. Check out videos from Nicholson 1968. Cyborg Religion, Ultrahumanism, The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. Videos. A common interpretation is that the equation is a mathematical proof of the futility of living. What is the anti-life equation? After a brutal virus wipes out most of the population, two young siblings embark on a perilous search for safety. The Rain, TV series 2018. Siblings Simone and Rasmus seek refuge in an underground bunker, parting ways with their scientist father, stay inside S1E1. Also, what are quantum dots? Apollon Corporation logo looms large in Bunker the Rain Netflix TV series. The Rain follows a group of young people in search of life after a deadly virus has wiped out all of civilization as we know it. The fatal disease was spread by something as supposedly harmless as the rain. Now, these last remaining survivors, two of whom have just decided to leave their futuristic-looking bunker after 6 years in hiding, must fight to stay alive in Netflix's first Danish original series. Yup. The show features a quarantine zone surrounded by a wall, just like in Colony, TV series 2016 to 2018. The Midnight Meat Train, 2008, Grant Avenue. Feed me, Seymour. The conductor appears and tells Leon the creatures have lived beneath the city since long before the subway was constructed, and the butcher's job is to feed them each night to keep them from attacking subway riders during the day. He picks up Leon, and with the same supernatural strength as the deceased butcher, rips out Leon's tongue, throwing him to the ground and eating it. The conductor brings Leon's attention to Maya, who has been knocked unconscious and is lying on a pile of bones. The conductor forces Leon to watch as he cuts Maya's chest open to remove her heart. When he is done, he tells Leon that, having killed the butcher, Leon must take his place. Finally, Detective Headley hands the train schedule to the new butcher, who wears a ring with the symbol of the group that feeds the creatures. The killer walks onto the midnight train and turns his head to reveal himself as, The Midnight Meat Train, 2008. Take a break, Driver 8. What's the meat train rider up to lately? Starring Tim Robbins in the title role, Jacob's Ladder made only a minor dent at the box office when it was released in 1990. But thanks to the film's haunting imagery, deep subject matter and unique twist, it developed a strong enough following, apparently enough in this case for producers to keep pursuing a remake. Read more. Also, Jeff Bueller. Every cop is a criminal, and all the sinners, saints. Unfriended, Dark Web, 2018. When a 20-something finds a cache of hidden files on his new laptop, he and his friends are unwittingly thrust into the depths of the dark web. They soon discover someone has been watching their every move and will go to unimaginable lengths to protect the dark web. Read more. Unfriended, Dark Web, 2018, Rotten Tomatoes. If the new state had no other interests than the interests of society, the dying away of the function of compulsion would gradually acquire a painless character. But the state is not pure spirit. Specific functions have created specific organs. The bureaucracy taken as a whole is concerned not so much with its function as with the tribute which this function brings in. The commanding caste tries to strengthen and perpetuate the organs of compulsion. To make sure of its power and income, it spares nothing and nobody. The more the course of development goes against it, the more ruthless it becomes toward the advanced elements of the population. Like the Catholic Church, it has put forward the dogma of infallibility in the period of its decline, but it has raised it to a height of which the Roman Pope never dreamed. Leon Trotsky, The Revolution Betrayed, here. My name is Legion, for we are many. Mark 5:9. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, shewing himself that he is God. 2 Thess 2:4. Time travel has not yet been invented. But 30 years from now, it will have been. It will be instantly outlawed, used only in secret by the largest criminal organizations. It's nearly impossible to dispose of a body in the future. I'm told. Tagging techniques, whatnot. So when these criminal organizations in the future need someone gone, they use specialized assassins in our present called loopers. And so, my employers in the future nab the target. They zap him back to me, their looper. He appears, hands tied and head sacked. And I do the necessaries. Collect my silver. So the target is vanished from the future, and I've just disposed of a body that technically does not exist. Clean. Looper, 2012, script. Check out Fractal Field. CERN Looper 666 logos, Apollyon, Shiva, the Destroyer. At CERN, did neutrinos arrive 60 nanoseconds earlier than the 2.3 milliseconds taken by light? Read here, Paradox, The 9 Greatest Enigmas in Science, Book Review. Some think that, with Jesus, we no longer have only forgiveness for committed sins, but freedom from being bound to commit the same sins again. By the way, speaking of rain, has anyone noticed, Ryan is an anagram of rain? As in, Rainman? Interview with Ryan Johnson, 10 Mysteries in Looper Explained, here. Why your government is either a thief, or you are a public officer, SCDM. Causes and Remedies for Government Corruption, SCDM. Angela with Adam aka Vic Beck, EP 490, Decision April 11, 12. Adam equals Adam? It's here. This is a film that deals with time travel as a means for evil syndicates to assassinate people. Read more. This is Barry. The Key Question Looper, 2012, presents, can modifying the past significantly affect the future, or are some outcomes inevitable? Wired. Also, here. Is there any hope? You can't change your history, but you can change your future. Read here. Sewer-dwelling evil dancing clown, Andy Muschietti it, 2017. He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living, yea therefore do greatly err. Mark 12:27. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. Isaiah 3:4-5. Women in the Bible. Are we building a better Antichrist? E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many, one, is a 13-letter traditional motto of the United States, appearing on the Great Seal along with the Nunc Coeptis and Novus Ordo Seclorum, and adopted by an Act of Congress in 1782. The few hours that we had together, we loved a lifetime's worth. Video. Subject matter and scope of copyright, here. Antecedent, the beast that was, and is not. And yet is? It's here. Who are dead, and your life is hid with Antichrist in the devil. Ever wonder about Freemasons and 33? Also, the first sale doctrine refers to the right of a buyer of a material object in which a copyrighted work is embodied to resell or transfer the object itself. Ownership of copyright is distinct from ownership of the material object. Read more, here. Look, in 100 years, who's going to care? The Terminator, 1984, the computer which controlled the machines, sent 2 Terminators back in time. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, they tried to murder me before I was born. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, 2003, by signing this consent form, you'll be donating your body to a noble cause. Terminator Salvation, 2009, before they died, my parents told me stories of how the world once was. Terminator Genesis, 2015. She's not my mom. She's a liar. Sid, Looper, 2012. In order to make an enforceable contract, people have to be able to understand what they're doing. That requires both maturity and mental capacity. Contracts and Consumer Law, ABBA. What is Baby Act? The Born Alive Protection Act extends legal protection to an infant born alive after a failed attempt at induced abortion. Read here. The Endless, 2017, also here. The main character of The Sandman is Dream, also known as Morpheus and other names, who is one of the 7 Endless. I'm a human being, my life has value. Howard Bale, Network. Following a near-fatal accident, David Chamberlain makes an unprecedented discovery that will not only determine the fate of his family, but of mankind. Terminus, 2015. In Looper, 2012, Sid was born in the year 2039 to his mother Sarah, Emily Blunt, and an unnamed father. So, who is Sid's father? What if something horrible goes wrong? Something already has. Check out Replicas, Keanu Reeves' sci-fi film resurfaces with new trailer, Den of Geek, Joseph Baxter, trailer. We love Keanu in all of his roles, especially John Wick and Johnny Mnemonic. What's a diplomatic courier? Reavers become reapers, what's a reeve? Also, check out Colorado INTL Sci-Fi and Fantasy Film Festival #SISF 2018. An invoice of his goods was presented to the agent, who had to certify to its correctness. What is certify? Certificate person, a person who holds a certificate of proficiency in survival craft, really? Read here. Yeah, I recall that film, Castaway, 2000. I'm a human being, my life has value. Network, 1976, Howard Bale, video. Equally as important as value is criminal intent, because without criminal intent there is no crime. Theft and misuse of government information by David Berry, here. The commonly cited reasons for governmental secrecy were stated by the Supreme Court in United States v. Procter & Gamble. One reason, to prevent the escape of those whose indictment may be contemplated, read here, General 4:11-12. Evidence you are an equitably adopted child, 20 CFR Sect 404.734. Privity of contract, here. Hosps, host, guest, visitor, stranger, foreigner. Behold, I stand at the door, and knock, Revelation 3:20. When there is a knock on the door, you don't know whether the person is a monster or a messiah. That's the level of risk that real hospitality involves. Guest or enemy. Welcoming the stranger, here. Paul McCartney sings, someone's knocking at the door, somebody's ringing the bell, the guest, 2014, script, Halloween Pumpkins, video. The word, hosps, is the root of hospital, hospitality. Does it mean host, guest, visitor, stranger, foreigner, enemy? How can it mean both host and guest in Latin? But a stranger can acquire no title by descent through a child in ventre sa mere, who is not subsequently born alive. Read more, in ventre sa mere. A guest, not a stranger? Read more, hospitality. When a young boy disappears, his mother, a police chief, and his friends must confront terrifying forces in order to get him back. Stranger Things, TV series 2016. A Perfect Idea, An Immaculate Conception. Sarah Connor, Kyle Reese, The Terminator, 1984. Who ya gonna call? Ghostbusters. Latin hostess, stranger, enemy, hosps, host, guest, stranger, from *hostipot, master of guests, cf. Sanskrit Ganapashini of the bynames of Ganesha and like that name meaning lord of categories, are related to Greek xenos, stranger, German Gast, Russian Gospod, lord, all from pi root *goes ti, stranger, guest, host. The original meaning was more along the lines of strangers who have a reciprocal, guest, non-familial, relationship with one another. The Hebrew Aramaic word ushpazin, holy, guests is from the Greek hospedion from Latin hospitium in, and the London place name, Spitalfields, is from hospital fields. Read more. Under federal law, employers that purchase corporate-owned life insurance, COLI, must provide written notice to all employees whose lives are insured. The notice must state that the company is the beneficiary and specify the amount of insurance purchased. Employees must provide their written consent to the arrangement before the policy is issued. What is corporate-owned life, dead peasant, insurance? Read here. What's the real value of a life insurance policy? Read here. A third person is anyone who is not a party to a particular legal action or agreement. Basic principles of English contract law, here. Contracts for the benefit of a third person in the civil law, here. Common people have, antecedent to all earthly government, rights, that cannot be repealed or restrained by human laws, rights, derived from the great legislator of the universe. John Adams. The War of Words between America and England began long before the actual outbreak of hostilities in the Revolutionary era. Read here. Human rights in political and legal theory, here. The E Pluribus Unum project, here. Is the list of the legally wastable growing longer? Read about the release of the destruction of life devoid of value, here. We are stardust, billion-year-old carbon. And we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Joni Mitchell, Woodstock. Estates, franchises, etc. This is Dr. Harding. Is Adam there? 6 Souls, 2010. Carbon, 666? Read here, here. This series takes place over 360 years in the future, Altered Carbon TV series. The world is the totality of facts, not of things. Ludwig Wittgenstein, an atomic fact is thinkable, read more, Squashed Philosophers. Petitioner's complaint states a federal cause of action under the Fourth Amendment for which damages are recoverable upon proof of injuries resulting from the federal agent's violation of that amendment. Bivens v. 6 Unknown Named Agents, here. I got the presidential seal, I'm up on the presidential podium. Ooh, my mama loves me, she loves me. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that mystery, the mother of all whores, loves me like a rock, Paul Simon. Nixon v. Fitzgerald 457 U.S. 731, 1982, held that the President of United States is entitled to absolute immunity from Bivens' actions. Time Crimes writer-director Nacho Vigalondo knows how to milk a tight budget. Spending a grand total of roughly $95 for 3 props, a gauze bandage, scissors, and a pair of binoculars. Read here. Thought experiments are rife with unanswered and unanswerable questions, which are the very stuff of great stories. Review. While Hector is inspecting the forest behind his house through his binoculars, he spots a woman undressing. Events unfold. A scientist explains that his machine is an experimental time travel device, and refers to Hector as Hector 2. The scientist tells him that they need to stay where they are and just let events unfold. But Hector 2 can't do that. Read more about this very interesting film, Time Crimes, 2007. Time Crimes, 2007, diagram. Also, a thoroughly American lawyer, rather than an Americanized English lawyer, books by John Bouvier. Wills, estates, probate law, do-ims here. What is legacy? Does a mere neo-style pod qualify as affordable housing? Commercial space competitiveness, here. Do a search on activism by author Rosa Coyer, Agenda 2.1. Check out this interactive bride's chair. I was sold under sin, according to the Bible, says Pastor Charles Lawson, you are bought with a price, video. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Matt 10:36. Abba, Father, here. Evil is live, present tense, spelled backwards, devil is lived, past tense, spelled backwards. Dancing in the Moonlight, Dancing with Mr. D. The Law of Freedom and Bondage in the United States by John C. Hurd Volume I and Volume 2. What is special power of appointment? But what about the baby, it's gonna burn. Evil Granny, Legion, 2010. Or maybe A and B enter into an agreement whereby A agrees to give valuable consideration to C, perhaps, a thing of value. A is the promisor, B is the promisee, and C is the beneficiary of the promise. Because most insurance contracts were silent about the insured's rights to change beneficiaries, equitable considerations prompted courts to prevent the insured from modifying the contract without the beneficiary's consent. Thus, the beneficiary in these cases acquired a vested right to the proceeds of the insurance policy upon the making of the contract. Read about third-party beneficiaries, here. Evil Granny debuts in Screen Gems supernatural action thriller, Legion, 2010. I'm your ice cream man, stop me when I'm passin' by, sang David Lee Roth. Sometimes the best parts of a movie are all in the trailer. In the previews there was a shot of an ice cream truck driver who turned into a gangly weird creature straight out of Oz. Where do you go, narrative-wise, once you opened up the giant can of Who Pass that is the End Times? Review, Legion, 2010. Speaking of End Times, it's too bad there's no Season 2 for the Stephen King adaptation, The Mist. Riders on the Storm? Riders on the good ship Lollipop. It's a ghost ship. You gotta love this giant Tootsie Roll. Mashup video. Our Father who is a term of art, born in the district of criminals, and Halloween be thy name. Yet are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. John 8:44-45. The Law of Freedom and Bondage in the United States Volumes I and II by John C. Hurd. Who's your daddy? Harry Pater. With apologies to J.K. Rowling. Did Ms. Rowling have help from spirit guides? Also, her publisher suggested she choose a male pseudonym when she embarked on her mystery writing career. Just another dirty story about a dirty man whose clinging wife doesn't understand? Check out Great Ape Conservation, here. It's no use, he sees her, he starts to shake and cough just like the old man in that book by Nabokov, Don't Stand So Close to Me. The police were referencing Lolita. Steve Martin discusses getting small while driving, let's get small. Musings on the geometric properties of the square and compasses, here. Famous and not so famous pentagrams of Washington, D.C. Three-dimensional objects and space result from the complete integration of similar two-dimensional systems, System A based on a quantum equals 1 and System B based on a quantum equals square root 2. Read here. Dreamcatcher is the story of 4 lifelong friends who save Douglas Duditz Cavell, a young teen with Down syndrome, from a group of sadistic bullies. Duditz, who is dying of leukemia, informs them the alien monster is headed to seed alien larvae into the water at Quabbin Reservoir. Read here. The book was made into a film in 2003. Schrödinger's cat is a thought experiment, sometimes described as a paradox, devised by Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger in 1935. The scenario presents a cat that may be simultaneously both alive and dead, a state known as a quantum superposition, as a result of being linked to a random subatomic event that may or may not occur. The Walking Dead. The zombie apocalypse. Everything that came out of Mother, besides me, is a human person. Kurt Kallenbach. Wormwood is used by holistic practitioners to kill parasites. In his final effort to save/redeem fallen humanity, the Lord turns the third part of the waters to wormwood. Perhaps to kill menacing demonic worms? And many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. Revelation 8:11. The end of a strange woman is bitter as wormwood. Prov 5:4. Ben Bernanke and the wisdom of parasites, here. Do worms and parasites poison the Federal Reserve? Schrödinger's cat, dead or alive? Both? Neither? Robert Neville is a brilliant scientist, but even he could not contain the terrible virus that was unstoppable, incurable, and man-made. I Am Legend, 2007, Warner Brothers, script. When she first began The Handmaid's Tale it was called Offered, the name of its central character, admits Margaret Atwood. This name is composed of a man's first name, Fred, and a prefix denoting belonging to, so it is like de in French or von in German, or like the suffix son in English, last names like Williamson. Everything the 26-year-old Jean knew about the Foundling Hospital sounded marvelous, a wealthy, benevolent organization that would raise her child in fresh country air, far from the smog-filled streets of London. In time, she hoped, when she was married, she could claim him back. For now, she thought he was in the best place. I was one of Britain's last foundlings here. Apparently, identifying children as foundlings didn't end there. A foundling found in the territory of a contracting state shall, in the absence of proof to the contrary, be considered to have been born within that territory of parents possessing the nationality of that state. United Nations Conference on the Elimination or Reduction of Future Statelessness, Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. A foundling found in the territory of a contracting state, UN Conference on the Elimination of Future Statelessness. Unbaby, or shredder, is the term used in the Republic of Gilead to describe infants that are suffering from birth defects or physical deformations. These die shortly after birth due to their defects. They are usually taken away to be disposed of. Read here. The day the music died, we started singing, Bye Bye Miss American Pie, what music really is, here. Are demons again corrupting the genetic material/DNA of humans to create a hybrid race? According to USCIS, a child for citizenship and naturalization provisions is an unmarried person who is, the genetic, legitimate, or adopted son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, or the son or daughter of a non-genetic gestational U.S. citizen mother who is recognized by the relevant jurisdiction as the child's legal parent. Read more. What is gestate? 1. To carry in the womb during the period from conception to delivery. 2. To think of and develop, an idea, opinion, plan, etc., slowly in the mind. Read more. De, a prefix occurring in loanwords from Latin, decide, also used to indicate privation, removal and separation, dehumidify, negation, demerit, derange, descent, degrade, deduce, reversal, detract, intensity, decompound. Read here. He was at one time the richest man and was still indeed the owner of the Grand Budapest. Also, I love this line, I bequeath, bestow and devise, free of all taxation and with full and absolute fiduciary entitlement, the painting known as Boy with Apple. The Grand Budapest Hotel, 2014. Read the script. The biggest success for me was the fact that we created spaces that tell a story, places that on their own are able to speak. I like to call them narrative spaces. The Grand Budapest Hotel is one of them, with its simple but appropriate and functional design, it makes me want to live there for a while. And that's the best feeling that a set designer, in general, could give to the audience. Here's how Wes Anderson uses matte painting in his incredible set designs. Interview with artist Simone de Salvatore. Thing of value means, any token, object or article exchangeable for money or property. The term thing of value is certainly broad enough to encompass both tangible and intangible properties and, in fact, has been construed to cover intangibles. U.S. Department of Justice. Or any form of credit or promise, directly or indirectly, contemplating transfer of money or property or of any interest therein, or involving extension of a service, entertainment, or a privilege of playing at a game or scheme without charge. Learn more, Washington State Legislature. One nation under leadership by we, the goats, the fallen body of the Antichrist? 1 to 102 District created body corporate for municipal purposes here. The District of Columbia Organic Act, 1871. Title 28 U.S.C. 3002 Section 15A, United States means a federal corporation. CRS 4-9-307, H. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. Drogon is a male dragon belonging to Daenerys Targaryen. He is the largest of her 3 dragons, as well as the most spirited and aggressive. As such, Daenerys has problems keeping him in control, despite seeing him as her son. Learn more, HBO's Game of Thrones. Outside the royal bedchamber, the courtiers and the palace staff were eagerly awaiting the official announcement of the birth of the new princes. Suddenly, an ear-splitting scream echoed within the chamber. But it was not the lusty cry of a newborn baby, it was, instead, a shriek of horror, a wail that sprang from the throat of the royal midwife when she set eyes upon the queen's first child. It was a male, but it was not human. Game of Thrones updates legendary monsters aka dragons. The queen had given birth to a Lindorm, a hideous, snake-like dragon, whose wingless body thrashed upon the marble floor in scaly coils, and from whose shoulders sprang a pair of powerful limbs with taloned feet. So repulsed by the creature that she was unable even to whisper, let alone scream, the queen leaned down, took the young Lindorm in her hands and hurled it through the window into the dense forest surrounding the palace. Weakened from the exertion, the queen sank back upon the bed and gave birth again, this time to a perfect healthy, fresh-faced boy, with golden hair and sparkling blue eyes. Read The Bride of the Lindorm King, here. Warner Brothers Pictures and Legendary Pictures Cinematic Monsterverse is an epic action-adventure that pits Godzilla against some of the most popular monsters in pop culture history. The new story follows the heroic efforts of the cryptozoological agency Monarch as its members face off against a battery of god-sized monsters, including the mighty Godzilla, who collides with Mothra, Rodan, and his ultimate nemesis, the three-headed King Ghidorah. When these ancient superspecies thought to be mere myths rise again, they all vie for supremacy, leaving humanity's very existence hanging in the balance. The monsters are truly legendary. Here come ol flat top, a blunt head. Abba, parens patrie. It seems safe to conclude, de plus cedent equals of the cedent. Also, cedent may refer to 1. In insurance, a reinsured. 2. In law, the party transferring a personal claim in the act called cession. 3. In logic, the antecedent and succedent of a sequent in sequent calculus are called cedents. Read here. Derivation of the law of excluded middle, AA, sequent calculus primer, here. Tarantino is a well-known aficionado of obscure cult films, which often serve as his greatest inspiration, as director Sergio Corbucci's Django clearly did for Django Unchained. I love the Christopher Walken way Waltz says, amongst your inventory, I've been led to believe, is a specimen I'm keen to acquire. 12 Weird Details from Quentin Tarantino's Vengeance Western, here. The Man vs. the State by Herbert Spencer, Mises. Who is Justice? Black's Law 5th edition, A, here. Django Unchained, 2012, see Dent and Dental Record? Let's say, you have a population. One day, one of the individuals is born with a genetic mutation that gives it a trait that someone would consider human. This trait, A, is beneficial in that particular environment so it spreads until everyone in the population has it. Later, another trait emerges, B. This happens either in the same population or in another population that split off into a new environment. Now you have a population with traits A and B and you still have an ancestral population with neither, and another with just A. Did you know, conversion from Julian or Gregorian AD years to the human era, aka He, can be achieved by adding 10,000 to the AD year? Year 237, 30I, was a common year starting on Sunday of the Julian calendar. At the time, it was known as the year of the consulship of Perpetuus and Felix. Also, less frequently, year 990 of Urbi Condita. The current year, AD 2018, can be transformed into a Holocene year by adding the digit 1 before it, making it 12,018 He. BC years are converted by subtracting the BC year from 10,001. A useful validity check is that the last single digits of BC and He equivalent pairs must add up to 1 or 11. Read here. From IFC Midnight, Room 237, 2012, Rodney Asher and Tim Kirk, video. Back to the Future, 1985, UK poster. Horus is the name of a sky god in ancient Egyptian mythology, which designates primarily two deities, Horus the Elder, the last-born of the first five original gods, and Horus the Younger, the son of Osiris and Isis. Hor means the distant one. Read here, here. Atlantean is an anagram of antenatal. Check out the Atlantean conspiracy, here. Horton here's a who. He's the only kid ever to get into trouble before he was born. Back to the Future, 1985, tagline. Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. General 25:23 There's two nations in the womb, but only one nation under God. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of, the mistress, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Nahum 3:4 Revealing the mystery of Babylon the Great and the Beast, here. Black Liberation, Wakanda style. Orion, associated with Osiris, is aligned with the king's chamber, and Sirius, associated with Isis, is aligned with the queen's chamber. In Dogon mythology, humanity is said to be born from the Namo, a race of amphibians who were inhabitants of a planet circling Sirius. They are said to have descended from the sky in a vessel accompanied by fire and thunder and imparted to humans profound knowledge. Read here. Reminds me of Pandorum, 2009. Should I put this spec down? If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down. And I won't. After all, a person's a person. No matter how small. Horton. Have you noticed the similarity in Nephis, nephew, Nephesh, and Nephilim? The Hebrew word Nephilim, plural of Nephil, literally means rejects. The Hebrew plural for Nephites would be Nephiim. Have you seen Rob Zombie's film, The Devil's Rejects, 2005? I like the ending where we see the rejects travel the long and winding road, Paul McCartney. We've seen that road before. At the beginning of The Shining, 1980. Also, and as we wind on down the road, Led Zeppelin. Read more. Designation, wills. The expression used by a testator, instead of the name of the person or the thing he is desirous to name, for example, a legacy to the eldest son of such a person, would be a designation of the legatee. Read here. Time Crimes, 2008, Alive/Dead Cat T-shirt. Posthumous, mid-15c, born after the death of the originator, author or father, from late Latin posthumus, from Latin postumus last born, superlative of posterus coming after, subsequent, see posterior. Altered in late Latin by association with Latin humere to bury, suggesting death, the one born after the father's death obviously being the last. An Old English word for this was afterborn, literally afterborn. Related, posthumously. Read more. That spider above Ontario might look familiar to anyone from the area, because it bears a striking resemblance to the sculpture known as Ma-Man, by artist and sculptor Louise Bourgeois, 1911-2010. The Creepy Spider in Enemy, 2013, here, also, Enemy explained. Fagin and Sykes are ex-resurrectionists. They have been made redundant by the Anatomy Act and are turning to new forms of crime. Frankenstein and the 1832 Anatomy Act, here. Who's next in line for the benefice? There's always room, Hilbert Hotel. The Shining featured Danny. Check this, Tribe of Dan. Planned Parenthood vs Danforth, here. Daniel, my brother, you are older than me. Elton John. Did it have a heart, lungs, brain, did it breathe? It was alive, but was it going to stay alive? Kurt Kallenbach. In September 1873, England's newspapers carried stories headlined Horrible Discovery in the Thames. Parts of a woman's body had been found in the river over the course of several days and it was proving impossible to identify her. Read here. Warburton's Anatomy Act of 1832, here. A Treatise on the Law of Husband and Wife, PDF. Conquest and Consent, A Legal History of Marital Rape, here. At common law, a husband was absolutely exempt from prosecution for raping his wife. Protecting them from themselves, the persistence of mutual benefits arguments for sex and race inequality, PDF. Jake Gyllenhaal, Enemy, 2014. Usually, a black widow is a cross between a con artist and a serial killer, a woman who seduces, marries, and then murders men for their money, always using a different name and identity each time to keep the police and her intended victims from twigging to her real identity. TV tropes. We are all dead men in Adam, blinded by the devil, enslaved to sin, hating God, condemned in our natural state, destined to an eternal hell, utterly helpless to regain our lost estate, all the while delighting in the illusion that we are the masters of our own ships, having the power to will into reality, via our works, whatever we choose, clutching to the religion of Cain that proclaims my free will produced the fruit of my own hands that must be acceptable to a God whom I really don't believe exists. Interview with Eric John Phelps, here. Check out Washington in the Lap of Rome, by Justin D. Fulton, PDF. Dowager Queen, the king's widow, indicates someone who served as consort/wife of a king, while dowager indicates a woman who holds the title from her deceased husband. A queen is a woman who possesses the sovereignty and royal power in a country under a monarchical form of government. She's wife of a king. As such, she enjoys most of the privileges belonging to her as queen consort. Remarkably, it is not treason to conspire her death or violate her chastity, because the succession to the crown is not thereby endangered. No man, however, can marry her without a special license from the sovereign, on pain of forfeiting his lands or goods. Black's Law. Freddie Mercury, Bohemian Rhapsody, 2018, Killer Queen. 1/1 = 1. The Lord is one. Nobody does anything whatsoever between October 4th and October 15th, 1582, because the 10 intervening days have simply been declared out of existence by the Pope. Read more, Wired. England and its colonies finally adopted the Gregorian calendar on September 2, 1752, decreeing the next day should be September 14, thus bridging the 11-day difference between the Julian and Gregorian calendars. On George Washington's birth certificate, it says that he was born on February 11, 1731. In many textbooks it says that he was born February 22, 1732. Which is correct? Both. Since the calendar was changed in September, moving January and February to the beginning of the year, Washington did not have a birthday in 1731. He skipped a year and thus became 11 days older and 1 year younger. 111? Read here. Read here, here. Funny Rubik's Cube jokes, here. United States means the several states of the United States, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealths, territories, and possessions of the United States. 18 U.S. Code Section 2340. Also, United States includes all territory and waters, continental or insular, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. 28 U.S. Code 1603. They don't call it circular for no reason. Office of Management and Budget, OMB, Circular No. A130, Managing Federal Information as a Strategic Resource, here. Revelation, 2016, also here. Between the silence of the mountains and the crashing of the sea there lies a land I once lived in and she's waiting there for me. Question, the Moody Blues. Check out the latest news from the Moody Blues. Trying to make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to my right, here I am stuck in the middle with you. Reservoir Dogs, 1992, lyrics, video. Are humans bred like rabbits and / or bred like Jesus for humanity and sold to the Society of Jesus? And as you cross the circle line, well, the ice wall creaks behind, you're a rabbit on the run, skating away. Does Ian Anderson really think his song is about climate change? Yeah, I think. Watch this video. Abraxas, 1991, poster, his right eye is utterly darkened. Abraxas is a Gnostic solar deity associated by the ancients with Yahweh and Mitras. The Holy Book of the Great Invisible Spirit refers to it as an Aeon dwelling with Sophia, wisdom, and other neons of the pleroma in the light of the illuminary Eleth. The Great Archon rules the 365 spheres, the 7 letters spelling Abraxas, and 7 stars often found on Gnostic gems represent each of the 7 classic planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Read more, Gnostic Warrior. The Lamentations of Isis and Nephthys is an ancient Egyptian text in which the 2 goddess sisters call the soul of the god Osiris to rejoin the living. The poem takes the form almost of a call and response liturgy in which one officiant's statements elicit a similar reply from another. In the Lamentations, the dual entreaties of the 2 sisters echoed each other in their attempts to symbolically revive Osiris. Read here. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Watch this video, Zaharia 11:17. Also, Jesse Ventura stars in Abraxas, Guardian of the Universe, 1991, VHS Wasteland, Joey's Movies. Abraxas, the Year of the Fire Rooster. Jupiter Ascending, 2015, Rescue from Black-Eyed Demons, video. Intergalactic Advocate Bob, this is the authentic recurrence of Her Ladyship the Abraxas Sovereign, and we have come to claim her title, video, here's the script. What is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel, wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Read more, General 29. Check out New Ancient Egypt, video. By the way, which statues of himself did Moses build? Did Jesus buy our salvation with his own living blood, or does the Pope serve as a straw purchaser of dried blood on a Guthrie card just in case the Lord doesn't make a timely return to pay the balance due? How the divine exchange is supposed to work, here. Dowry and bride price are not the same thing, read here, also here, here. Newborn undergoes neonatal heel prick known as Guthrie test. A property owner is thinking of making a will or creating a trust. How far into the future should the law allow him or her to reach when tying up that property? Can he or she control the devolution of that property indefinitely? How far should one generation be given freedom to dispose of property in ways that will restrict the freedom of the next? Also, every person alive at the effective date of the instrument, the execution of the deed or the death of the testator as the case may be, is a life in being. In addition, at common law, conception is treated as being equivalent to actual birth. The rules against perpetuities and excessive accumulations, here. Need we consider how he was ruthlessly handed over to lackeys and soldiers to be the object of their bloody scorn and to suffer from their insolence every blow that their pitiless mockery and malicious cruelty could deal? It's here. The Born Identity, 2002, and The Born Supremacy, 2014 are these stories veiled exposes of PayPal's supremacy? Also, here. Watch this presentation, Pope Says Lucifer is God, video, also, Rope a Dope Pope, video. 50 Years in the Church of Rome by Charles Chiniquy. Here's more background, directory for the ministry and the life of priests, here. Neo, why do my eyes hurt? Morpheus, you've never used them before. And the painted ponies go up and down, circle game. What an incredible smell you've discovered. Han Solo, Star Wars, 1977. Can you smell the circus, Georgie? There's peanuts, cotton candy, hot dogs, and Pennywise, It, 2017. Tell me, Mr. Anderson, what good is a phone call, if you're unable to speak? Agent Smith, The Matrix, 1999, video. Teachers at St. Bartholomew's Hospital School routinely directed workhouse and prison officials to send bodies to them, paying £5 per corpse and overriding the inspector's instructions that they be sent elsewhere. Read here. Bread for humanity and sold to the Society of Jesus. What is a born alive certificate person? Ancestor, one from whom a person is descended, from past participle stem of Latin antecederate to precede, from ante before. We're paying taxes for taxonomies. Here comes the sun, it's all right. What is helianthus? Inspect the sunflower plants for flower heads that appear dead. Select droopy, faded or dried flowers for dead heading. Read more, sunflowers, here. The etymology of helicopter has nothing to do with cops, but rather with flyers of the Jurassic period. It's helico plus pter, from the Greek lambda iota kappa omicron, ilikos, spiral plus pi tau epsilon rho nu, pteron, wing. Helicopter. Death. The death of a man, as to its effects on others, may be considered with regard, 1. To his contracts. 2. Torts committed by or against him. 3. The disposition of his estate, and 4. To the liability or discharge of his bail. Read here. Fallen angels have wings. Pter sounds like Peter. Upon this rock, Matt 16:18. Which rock, exactly? Terra firma? Unobtainium? For their rock is not as our rock, Deuteronomy 32:31. The rock of our salvation is, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshy tables of the heart. 2 Corinth 3:3, the Church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. 1 Tim 3:15, the body of Christ explained, video. For yet are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Colonel 3:3. Sleepy Hollow, 1999. If you're reading this, you're not dead. At least, you're not a deadhead. Not an elder thing, video. The creatures were featured in At the Mountains of Madness, a science fiction horror novella by American author H.P. Lovecraft, written in February/March 1931 and rejected that year by Weird Tales editor Farnsworth Wright on the grounds of its length. Read more. Speaking of Farnsworth, Bentley. Whip up a liver and way shake right away. Heaven Can Wait, 1978, script, IMDb. In the Shadow of Marriage, Single Women and the Legal Construction of the Family and the State, here. I'd run but there's nowhere to go, standin' in the shadow of love, I'm gettin' ready for the heartaches to come, standing in the shadows of love, 4 tops. We did not know it was a murdering plot. He secretly married the widow and left everything to her and her unborn child, Sleepy Hollow, 1999. When the Rooster Crows at the Break of Dawn. Don't Think Twice, It's Alright by Bob Dylan. Testamentary Substitutes, A Time for Statutory Clarification, here. The Chinese calendar has 12 or 13 lunar months per year, and is about 20 to 50 days behind the Gregorian calendar. Every 12 years there is a rooster year, beginning at Chinese New Year. January 28, 2017 began the Year of the Fire Rooster. Years of the rooster include 1933, 1945, 1957, 1969, 1981, 1993, 2005, 2017, and 2029. Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, that this night, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Matt 26:34. More about roosters, below. The town is a loving environment and a nostalgic environment, but at the same time it's an extension of evil, says it, 2017, director, Andy Muschietti. Stephen King books, here. Speaking of evil, did you know the US government cannot subject its citizens to rules and laws that prohibit them from speaking their minds? Were you able to speak your mind as a baby? If not, perhaps you may want to correct a few records now that you're an adult. Read here. The forensic use of DNA information. Information has a definite value, which may be quantified and treated as an accountable asset. Read The Nature of Information, and the Effective Use of Information in Rural Development by Hester W. J. Meyer, Department of Information Science, University of South Africa, Pretoria, South Africa. DNA works hand in hand with paper trail documentation, said Judy Russell, genealogy lecturer, educator, and author. Read here. Also here. Under amendments to the Common Rule, which governs federally funded human subjects research including genetic research, individuals need give only broad consent, to unspecified future research, for the storage and research use of their identifiable private information and identifiable biospecimens. You can't hide your genes, here. Kill Bill, Volume 2, 2004, Enmity, Thy Seed and Her Seed? Wifely Behavior, A Legal History of Acting Married, here. Dower is a provision accorded by law, but traditionally by a husband or his family, to a wife for her support in the event that she should become widowed. It was settled on the bride, being gifted into trust, by agreement at the time of the wedding, or as provided by law. The dower grew out of the Germanic practice of bride price, Old English wiotuma, which was given over to a bride's family well in advance for arranging the marriage, but during the early Middle Ages, was given directly to the bride instead. Read here. Inchoate dower, a wife's interest in her husband's estate while both of them are alive. In other words, inchoate dower is an imperfect interest that the law gives a wife in the property of her husband, which becomes perfect upon the death of the husband and may result in possession and use. An inchoate dower cannot be alienated and cannot be reached by creditors. It can be released by the wife if she joins with her husband in a deed. The right of dower of a widow is considered as inchoate until the death of her husband, and after the death, it becomes a vested right to a life estate. Also, statutory estoppel by deed, here, the relinquishment of dower and curtsy between husband and wife in Virginia, here. Angel of the Morning, released in 1968 by Marilee Rush and the Turnabouts. Deadpool, 2016, opening scene, Angel of the Morning, video, lyrics. Is Jesus 100% God and also 100% man? Some say yes, some say no. Man is a three-part being, says round Saturn's eye, here. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that, when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. 1 John 3:2. The next thing you know, you're going to waste your life, it's going to wind up a shipwreck somewhere, we are saved by his life, says Pastor Charles Lawson. Mary is not the mother of God, that's Sophia, he says. After the Order of Melchizedek, video. The Minds of Men, a film by Aaron and Melissa Dykes, Truthstream Media. What is the science of government? Check out the new documentary from Truthstream Media, The Minds of Men, here. Also, Melissa Dykes covers how the ideas created by elite occultists work their way through popular culture and into the daily news. Check out A Talking Cricket, A Self-Writing Quill, and The Coming Hive Mind, here. Did you know? Statutes, which are acts enacted by Congress, apply only to the United States. They do not apply to living people within the various states or to the sovereign states themselves. It's here. Also, USA versus US. As part of his attempt at a comprehensive legal reform, Thomas Jefferson authored this bill. Descriptio personae, description of the person. In wills, it frequently happens that the word heir is used, it is then a sufficient designation of the person. In all contracts, under seal, there must be some designatio personae. In general, the names of the parties appear in the body of the deed, between A B of, and C, of the one part, and C D of, and C, of the other part, being the common formula. But there is a sufficient designation and description of the party to be charged, if his name is written at the foot of the instrument. Read more. Every right is annexed to a certain character or relation, which each individual bears in society. The rights of magistrates, legislators, judges, husbands, fathers, heirs, purchasers, and occupants, are all dependent upon the respective characters of the claimants. Also, human laws define and enforce, as well those rights which belong to a man considered as an individual, as those which belong to him considered as related to others. Read more. Jupiter and Cain, Jupiter Ascending, 2015. In the United States today, approximately half of the states have laws that restrict to some degree the rights of non-citizens to own real property. A significant number of states limit the right of aliens to inherit real property, usually providing a window of several years within which an alien who has inherited land may sell the land to a United States citizen in order to avoid forfeiture. Alien land restrictions in the American common law, here. Also, men had burst forth from the medieval collectivism of the feudal system and had begun to learn of their inalienable rights, while forgetting their inescapable obligations. Restraints on disinheritance, here. By the English law, estates less than a fee may be forfeited to the party entitled to the residuary interest by a breach of duty in the owner of the particular estate. When a tenant for life or years, therefore, by theft, fine, or recovery, conveys a greater estate than he is by law entitled to do, he forfeits his estate to the person next entitled in remainder or reversion. Bouvier's Law 1856. It is desirable to provide flexibility without necessity of court involvement, thus avoiding potentially significant delay, expense, and public disclosure of facts that are usually better left within the family, right? Tales from the Dark Side, drafting issues from the fiduciary perspective, here. Also 26 U.S. Code Sec. 2042. The income of an estate of a deceased person is that which is received by the estate during the period of administration or settlement here. What does the Constitution say about federal land ownership? Read here. Also this PDF. Former State Senator Casey Emerson quote. The federal government's real estate portfolio is vast and diverse, including approximately 273,000 buildings that are leased or owned in the United States and that cost billions of dollars annually to operate and maintain by civilian and defense agencies. U.S. Cow. The federal government is the largest real property owner in the United States and its inventory is vast and complex. Read here, here. Read more. President Donald Trump has pledged to construct a wall and drain a swamp, but what can he do for the federal buildings? Read here. We the people, but, who are we? Here. The 14th article in Amendment to the Constitution by Gary Hunt. Also, Good to be King, The Foundation of Our Constitutional Freedom by Michael Badnarik. Federal and state control parks, recreation and prisons. The contracts of a deceased person are in general not affected by his death, and his executors or administrators are required to fulfill his engagements, and may enforce those in his favor. But to this general rule there are some exceptions. Some contracts are either by the terms employed in making them, or by implication of law, to continue only during the life of the contracting party. Among these may be mentioned the following cases: 1. The contract of marriage. 2. The partnership of individuals. The contract of partnership is dissolved by death, unless otherwise provided for. Indeed, the partnership will be dissolved by the death of one or more of the partners, and its effects upon the other partners or third persons will be the same, whether they have notice of the death or otherwise. Bouvier's 1856. Also, once any outstanding amounts have been repaid, the bona vacantia division, BVD, will consent to the removal of the charge from the title to the property. Read here. For every house is builded by some man, but he that built all things is God. Heb 3:4. The word person in legal terminology is perceived as a general word which normally includes in its scope a variety of entities other than human beings. Church of Scientology v. U.S. Department of Justice, 1979. Freedom extends beyond spatial bounds. Liberty presumes an autonomy of self that includes freedom of thought, belief, expression, and certain intimate conduct. The instant case involves liberty of the person both in its spatial and more transcendent dimensions. Lawrence v. Texas, 2003. Rights of the Dead Note. Transcendent dimensions? Can you legally marry a dead person? Can trees, animals, unborn generations, and the dead be legal right holders? Read Rights of the Dead. Condolences and congratulations. It's here. A man married his deceased girlfriend in a combination funeral and wedding ceremony. Read here. Also, a French woman marries her dead partner. A love that transcends death is blessed by the state. Read the New York Times. Here. A land trust is a real property title holding vehicle, a trust agreement under which the beneficiary directs the trustee in all matters affecting title to the trust property. Protect your assets with a land trust. A beneficial interest is that right which a person has in a contract made with another, third, person. Read more. A certificate of beneficial interest is a document stating one has an ownership interest but not direct control in an asset, estate, or business. While one shares in the benefits of ownership including profits, the direct control is left to others. In a business, a certificate of beneficial interest entitles one to share in the profits of the business, but management provides direct control. A beneficial interest in property is an equitable interest. Learn more, also, Canadian Vic Beck. Episode 490 Vic Beck My Private Audio. Date. The designation or indication in an instrument of writing, of the time, and usually of the time and place, when and where it was made. When the place is mentioned in the date of a deed, the law intends, unless the contrary appears, that it was executed at the place of the date. Plowed. 7b, 31h6. This word is derived from the Latin datum, because when deeds and agreements were written in that language, immediately before the day, month, and year in which they were made, was set down, it was usual to put the word datum, given. Read more. Read here, The Time Machine, H.G. Wells. At the fertility clinic, Jupiter Jones is identified as the recurrence of the dead intergalactic queen Seraphia Brazax, though she is not traced immediately because she uses the name of her friend and employer Catherine Dunleavy on account of her immigration status as an illegal alien. Jupiter works as a cleaner at the Dunleavy household. The plot is Sub-Hitchhiker's Guide / Guardians of the Galaxy bunkum about extravagantly coiffured extraterrestrials who rule Earth from afar, but whose plans to harvest its riches are confounded by the genetic resurgence of intergalactic royalty in the unsuspecting shape of toilet-cleaning Mila Kunis. Read here. Learn more. Jupiter Ascending, 2015. Jupiter Jones, Authentic Recurrence of Semiramis. Recurrence is an extremely rare phenomenon which sees the gene pattern of one individual manifest in an entirely separate individual. It's viewed as having a religious or mystical dimension, and some entitled individuals bequeath in their will parts of their estate to any potential recurrence. Seraphia Brazax bequeathed Earth to her potential recurrence in her will, and the identification of Jupiter as her recurrence leads to a fevered dispute over the planet's fate. Also, review at HuffPost. She was plunged into debt, contracted in order to obtain the barest necessaries of life. Having nothing of any value in the house, the hard-hearted creditor, in lieu of payment, threatened to take and sell her two only sons as slaves. Read more, Obadiah's widow. Meanwhile, Osiris' wife, Isis, searched for his remains until she finally found him embedded in a tree trunk, which was holding up the roof of a palace in Byblos on the Phoenician coast. She managed to remove the coffin and open it, but Osiris was already dead. She used a spell she had learned from her father and brought him back to life so he could impregnate her. After they finished, he died again, so she hid his body in the desert. Months later, she gave birth to Horus. While she was off raising him, Set had been out hunting one night, and he came across the body of Osiris. Enraged, he tore the body into 14 pieces and scattered them throughout the land. Isis gathered up all the parts of the body, less the phallus which was eaten by a fish thereafter considered taboo by the Egyptians, and bandaged them together for a proper burial. Read more. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, here. He went out tiger hunting with his elephant and gun. In case of accidents he always took his mom. The continuing saga of Bungalow Bill, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Fathom, a measure of length, equal to 6 feet plus t equals feet. The word is probably derived from the Teutonic word fad, which signifies the thread or yarn drawn out in spinning to the length of the arm, before it is run upon the spindle. A fee is an estate which may continue forever. Read here. Perhaps where we get the idea that a dead man is buried 6 feet under. Elmer aka Nimrod, the mighty hunter. Horus became known as Harcesis, Heruor, and Harwer, in Egyptian, meaning Horus the Great. What's up, Doc? Elmer Fudd speaks in an unusual way, replacing his R's and L's with W's, so he always refers to Bugs Bunny as a Skvui Wobbit. Read about Elmer Fudd. Did Looney Tunes cartoon characters Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck both sarcastically refer to the hunter Elmer Fudd as an idiot, a fool, a bad hunter? A Nimrod. The continuing story of Bungalow Bill, lyrics. The trickster is an alchemist, a magician, creating realities in the duality of time and illusion. What's a trickster? Also, Bugs, wearing what would be Elmer's hunting outfit, hunts Elmer, dressed in a rabbit costume. Hairbrush. The bunny's mercurial nature is essential to his appeal. Bugs Bunny, the trickster, American style, NPR. Ye shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel, and the hare, and the coney, Deuteronomy 14:7, Leviticus 11:5, also coney, rabbit, c. 1200, abstracted from Anglo-French conies, Old French conies, origin and meaning, coney. 1560s, a solid generated by the revolution of a right-angled, or directly from Latin conus a cone, peak of a helmet, from Greek konos cone, spinning top, pine cone, origin and meaning, cone. We sailed into international waters so we could legally marry. It's not legal to marry a deceased person, Amanda Teague. We spoke to some lawyers and did it officially. Teague says. Her husband was executed by hanging in 1753, after he was caught assisting the escape of slaves who were being traded. Read I Married a Ghost Pirate, here. According to Grave Vows, a cross-cultural examination of the varying forms of ghost marriage among 5 societies by Lucas J. Schwartza, a rooster must be present at the ceremony to represent the groom, the woman must take a vow of celibacy and immediately move in with her husband's family following the wedding. Cecilia, an attorney, commenced emergency proceeding without notice to the brothers Wojniak. The practice was banned by the Communist Party in 1949, during Mao Zedong's reign. But the ritual still endures, especially in remote regions of the country. In all these examples, however, the deceased has been a person who was known to the bride prior to his death. Teague claims to have met Jack as a ghost. She never knew him while he was alive. If he was ever alive. Read here. Corpse Brides and Ghost Grooms, A Guide to Marrying the Dead, here. Cecilia Kleiman and Isaac Wojniak were first married in a Jewish ceremony on Miami Beach in January 1987. Sadly, Wojniak died of a heart attack soon afterward on March 10, 1987. 10 cases of posthumous marriage, here. Transcendence, 2014, stars Johnny Depp. Chinese ghost marriage. What's the best way to destroy a cat devil? Chinese materia medica, here. According to the old Greeks, the rooster has the same color blood as that of a virgin woman. If the wife-to-be wasn't exactly untouched before the wedding, the family of the bride used to kill a rooster and preserve his blood for the girl to use on her first night as a wife. Then, after the wedding night, the family would cook the rooster and share it for dinner. Read here. After being tied to a table leg with the hen, the male chicken was beaten senseless to symbolize the bride would not be bullied or humiliated by her husband's family. Dog and rooster, this combination is akin to a psychic blood fest. When the egotistic and sadistic rooster teams up with the masochistic and insecure dog, anything can happen. Each sign antagonizes the other, and the relationship is likely to bring out the worst in both personalities. Chinese sexual astrology, here. Also, they say enmity exists between rooster and dog, here. This animal hides in your heart, here. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Revelation 17:17. In the bride bowing with a rooster custom indigenous to China's southeastern coast, a bird actually replaces the groom. The two sides of a wedding usually choose in advance a red-letter date to tie the knot. If the bridegroom is fishing at sea and cannot come back on time for the wedding, his party will choose a rooster to perform bows with the bride. The bird complies because the bridegroom's younger sister or a groomsman presses its head down. After the ceremony, the rooster is closed in the bridal chamber with a red cloth tied to its neck and fed rice. When the real bridegroom returns, the rooster is set free. This article is continued. Here's intro, part 1a, part 1b, part 2, part 3. Share this. 7. 1.